We have a great fight coming up at featherweight. Youssef Zalal coming in on short notice, taking on South Korea's Seung Woo Choi. And Matt, while he's not like Steve Borden, he is a very impressive fighter. And for Seung Woo Choi in the UFC, lost his first two fights to Movsar Evloev, then to Gavin Tucker, and then he picked up a big win over Suman Mokhtarian in a fight where he beat him pillar to post. And if he didn't grab the fence, probably would have got every single point available on the board. That fight, I can't stress how not close that fight was. And if you go back and watch it, Suman Mokhtarian was so confident in himself, even after getting the tar beaten out of him in the second round. Seung Woo Choi looked amazing in that fight. I have to say how good he looked, because it's just the truth. And if you look at the odds in this one, they're not overly close. I'm sure a lot of people might discredit Seung Woo Choi. He is a 2010 bronze medalist at the World Muay Thai Championships, and you can see it in his fights. He's got a nice right straight down the pipe. He throws a nice kick, whether it's going head, body, or to the legs. He's a really dynamic fighter. When he gets to his back, he does have some issues. His takedown defense is so
shoddy.
I know if you go back and you watch the fight against Gavin Tucker, Joe Rogan talks about Seung Woo Choi having good takedown defense. I remember the Mokhtarian fight, they talked about it a little bit. Movsar Evloev straight up one of the best wrestlers in MMA right now, so it's hard to really take a lot from that fight. And if you look at the fight against Gavin Tucker, he has his moments in the first round. In the second round, Tucker, illegal knee to the opponent. In the second round of the Evloev fight, same thing. Evloev hit him with an illegal knee. And for Seung Woo Choi, in his fight against Suman Mokhtarian, he grabbed the fence. So in every fight he's had so far in the UFC, somebody's lost a point. And in this one, Youssef Zalal, like I said, he's coming in on short notice. And it's really interesting because you had Seung Woo Choi. He was booked to take on Ocho Steven Peterson. Peterson out of the fight. Then Colin Anglin was supposed to make his UFC debut. Well, now he's out. Now you get Youssef Zalal out of Factory X, who in his last fight took on a short notice opponent in Ilia Topuria, and it did not go well.
It really didn't. And again, Topuria, I would say we're two of his bigger fans out there. This was before anyone really knew how good Topuria was. And the fact that he went out there and it was a great fight against Zalal, I must say. It was back and forth, but again, when you don't know how good a guy is, and then the unknown sort of shows up and dominates the guy who you had a lot of stock in, and I thought Youssef Zalal was going to dominate him. I really did. I was high on Zalal. He's great.
Do we want to go back as to who we picked in that one?
No, we probably don't. But it's just Zalal, when you look at what he's able to do, he's so well-rounded, and I understand he had some back-to-back losses right before he came into the UFC, but the run that he was on was really, really significant, and I really like Youssef Zalal for this purpose. There's a lot of prospects where you look at them and it's like, wow, they've got a bunch of first-round knockouts. Look how good they are. Youssef Zalal tends to just dominate his opponent for 15 minutes. And again, some people aren't going to like this, but you have a pretty good idea as to what Youssef Zalal brings to the table at this point. And I wouldn't really put him in that Ramzan Abiv category where it's his goal in fighting is, I'm going to win a decision. I'm going to win a decision. Youssef Zalal goes out there, throws big power, has good takedowns. It's not like he's not fighting for the finish. I just always get a lot of tape, I feel like, when I see Youssef Zalal fight. He got outboxed by Ilia Topuria, though.
Oh, he got taken down a lot.
Taken down a ton. That's not going to happen against Seung Woo Choi. He is against a completely different stylistic matchup, and this fight is going to make for absolute fireworks. That's another great thing I like about this fight. Short notice fight, but this could have been nominated for Fight of the Night. If we really wanted to, this could have been on the graphic at the start of the video. That's how excited I am for it. Here's the problem with Seung Woo Choi, and you had kind of hinted on it. If he gets backed up, he doesn't have bad takedown defense, but he's only really good for that first move. He's kind of Alexander Gustafsson-ish, where if you go on his hips, he's got really reactive hips. He's good for that initial takedown defense, but if you are a guy like Movsar Evloev, and he did it to perfection against Woo Choi, or Gavin Tucker, and Tucker sort of figured it out as the fight went on, Gavin Tucker couldn't get the takedown when he's just going for single takedowns. And then he goes, oh, I can chain wrestle. And Seung Woo Choi can defend some of the initial shots, but you can tell that as those sequences start to progress and they do get into that 2, 3, 4 takedown attempts off the one shot, he will start to struggle. And I don't know if it's a balance thing with him. And I gotta say this too. He stands very much like an orthodox Jeff Neal. He does have a very upright stance in that way, and he does love to fire out that right hand. He's good at making guys pay for the takedown attempt, but again, if you are really dedicated to it, you will be able to, and I hate to use this term, you'll be able to break him, sort of, where you will be able to take him down, he'll work his way back up to the feet, but if you do that enough to him, he will just sort of accept the takedown. So if Youssef Zalal goes out there and really fights the best of his ability, I would expect a very takedown heavy game plan. but he will stand and strike with Seung Woo Choi, and that's what worries me a little bit for Zalal in this fight.
For Youssef Zalal, again, training at a Factory X with guys like Alexandre Hernandez and the like, I think that's definitely going to help you out in this fight. And obviously, he wouldn't be confident, or he wouldn't not be confident in his skills if he didn't take this fight on short notice. So you look at it for all that it's worth. Youssef Zalal, again, the ceiling's quite high, only 24 years old. But again, for Seung Woo Choi coming in the UFC, he was one of those guys that had a lot of first-round finish wins when you went down through. Obviously, in most of his fights, he was at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of overall cage time. That's one of those things that you kind of scratch your head at a little bit. And again, the level of competition. Movsarevlev, probably a future top 15 guy.
He's all right.
Gavin Tucker, on his best day he is, and if he fights a lot, he definitely is. I mean, you look at his last 2 fights, Billy Quarantillo, Justin Jaynes, looked amazing. And then if you have a look at Seung Woo Choi's last fight against Suman Mokhtarian, well, Mokhtarian fought twice in the UFC. He lost twice in the UFC. And he hasn't fought since he fought Seung Woo Choi. And that was 13 months ago. So it's really tricky to try and get an accurate read. Whereas for Youssef Zalal, so far in the UFC, fought Austin Lingo, and he looked great. And then in his next fight, Jordan Griffin. And that was the one where I worried a lot about his takedown defense, his submission defense. It was a closer fight than maybe just a unanimous decision on a page might say, but he did fight quite well in that one, and it's one of those ones where Youssef Zalal has a lot of success all the way around the cage. I don't worry about him a lot now. That's going to contradict a little bit with the Ilia Topuria fight, but when he's got his back up against the cage, he can usually circle out of it. And when he's got a guy against the cage, well, I don't worry about him in a clinch all that much. For Seung Woo Choi, when he's got somebody backed up against the cage, he has all kinds of success, and his clinch game is great. Again, I can't stress enough that Muay Thai background. You're going to see it in this fight. You're going to love it if he lights it up. So for Youssef Zalal, beats Griffin, has that fight against Lingo in his debut. Then he fought Peter Barrett and just made Peter Barrett look silly.
That's a weird fight.
Chase Hooper had a fight against Peter Barrett. It was fun. It was fun, I guess.
Submission.
Peter Barrett had good opportunities, I guess. Really lit Chase Hooper up on the feet at certain points, but Youssef Zalal looked great in that Peter Barrett fight. And then again, unfortunately for him, lost to Ilia Topuria. So Matt, let's have a look at the Topology picks here. 793 of them so far, 88% Zalal. And of the people that are going with Zalal, 82% predicting him to win by decision. Zalal open to minus 150 favorite. He's now minus 241. For Choi, open to plus 130, now a plus 190. What are you thinking about that?
I like Zalal in this fight. I'm kind of surprised by the confidence in which Tapology voters have voted in his favor. Because again, this fight's going to be close. And it's the thing with Zalal. It's not that he'll fight to the level of his competition, but he's not a big finisher. He's a great striker, but he doesn't have massive pop behind his shots by any means. So Choi's not going to go out of there early. And if you do stand and strike with Seung Woo Choi for any period of time, and let's be honest, this is probably going to be a 15-minute kickboxing fight, there are going to be opportunities for him to catch you. I still like Zalal just for his ability to mix it up. He got out-wrestled by Topuria. He got really out-volumed by Topuria as well, but those aren't issues that he's going to run into in this fight, I don't think. So I'm going to pick Youssef Zalal. And again, a guy at only 24 years old is going to get better after every single fight. And I think after losing to a guy like Topuria in his last fight, is really going to light a fire under him, and we should see the best Youssef Zalal.
I like Youssef Zalal a lot. Again, I talked about all the tricks of the trade, all the things that he does really well. But the same thing can be said for Seung Woo Choi. And you look at both of these guys, well, with a loss for Youssef Zalal. Well, he won his first 3, and he lit the world on fire to start, and then his 2020 ended a little bit poorly. But if he didn't lose that fight, he'd probably be in that Rookie of the Year type conversation for the last year. So if he loses a fight to Seung Woo Choi, all right, back to the drawing board, you're going to get more fights. But if Seung Woo Choi loses, I get that he won his last fight, but again, remember what I said about Suman Mokhtarian. We haven't seen him since, lost 2 in the UFC, didn't win on The Ultimate Fighter, so it's a tricky one. So for Seung Woo Choi, this to me feels like a must-win, and it sucks for him where you go from Steven Peterson to Colin Anglin, now to Youssef Zalal, probably the toughest test out of those 3. Yeah. You really got to feel for a guy like that. And the other thing, I like the power of Seung Woo Choi. I get it. He didn't knock out Suman Mokhtarian, but he came this close to doing it in that second round, and he beat the brakes off him during that entire fight. So this is a really tricky one for me. In terms of confidence level in this card, Not one of the most confident picks, but I
agree.
do like Youssef Zalal in this one, especially if he's able to really kind of trick Seung Woo Choi with a little bit of those wrestling feints. And if he can do that early, I really think it's going to help him on the feet. So I like Zalal here. You like Zalal here.
100%.
And I'm really looking forward to this fight. We have a very, very active division here at featherweight. This should be a great fight. We've got a great card coming up, and you're not going to want to miss the video at the top. Overeem taking on Volkov. It's a heavyweight banger. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.